Fame and fortune may open doors, but they can't always keep the jail cell closed. When R. Kelly, a global music icon, was sentenced for heinous crimes, the world was stunned. His imprisonment served as a sobering reminder that even the rich and famous aren't immune to justice. From fraud and conspiracy to violent crimes, numerous celebrities have found themselves behind bars, with some facing decades-long sentences. The spotlight often magnifies their downfall, making their legal troubles a global spectacle. Which celebrity's downfall shocked you the most? Do you believe fame amplifies the consequences, or does it lead to leniency? Share your thoughts below. R. Kelly, the R&B superstar behind hits like I Believe I Can Fly, was convicted in 2021 of federal charges, including racketeering, sexual exploitation of minors, and human trafficking. His crimes involved decades of abuse targeting young girls and women. His trial exposed a disturbing pattern of control and abuse. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison, with additional charges pending in separate jurisdictions. Public reaction was intense, with some fans continuing to support him, though the #MuteRKelly movement gained traction, calling for accountability. Kelly remains incarcerated, with ongoing appeals and multiple civil lawsuits against him for restitution to his victims. Harvey Weinstein, the former Hollywood mogul and producer, was found guilty in 2020 of rape and sexual assault following numerous allegations that launched the #MeToo movement. His actions spanned decades as dozens of women came forward with horrifying accounts of abuse and harassment. He was sentenced to 23 years in prison, with an additional 16 years added after a second trial in Los Angeles. The case became a watershed moment for sexual assault survivors, sparking global conversations about power and accountability. Weinstein remains behind bars while continuing to appeal his convictions. Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted in 2021 for her role in aiding Jeffrey Epstein in trafficking minors. Prosecutors revealed that she lured young girls into Epstein's orbit, where they were sexually abused. She was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. Public outcry was fierce, with demands for transparency about other high-profile individuals connected to the case. Maxwell remains incarcerated in a Florida prison and has filed appeals against her sentence, maintaining her innocence. Chris Watts shocked the nation in 2018 when he confessed to murdering his pregnant wife, Shannon, and their 2 young daughters. The motive appeared to stem from his affair and desire to start a new life. Watts was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. The case became infamous after a Netflix documentary revealed chilling details of the murders and Watts' calm demeanor during initial interviews with police and the media. He is currently serving his sentence in a maximum security prison, receiving no chance of freedom. Elizabeth Holmes, the former CEO of Theranos, was convicted in 2022 of fraud and conspiracy for misleading investors about her company's blood testing technology. Once hailed as a Silicon Valley prodigy, her downfall exposed how ambition and deception led to a $9 billion fraud scandal. Holmes was sentenced to over 11 years in prison. Public reaction was divided. Some saw her as a ruthless manipulator, while others viewed her as a misguided entrepreneur. She is currently serving her sentence while continuing to appeal, though she has lost much of her former public support. Lori Loughlin became infamous for her role in the 2019 college admissions scandal, where she and her husband were found guilty of paying $500,000 to falsely present their daughters as college rowing recruits. The scandal shattered her wholesome image as Aunt Becky from Full House. She served 2 months in federal prison. Public response was harsh, with many calling out her entitlement, though she has since made a quiet return to acting and philanthropy efforts to repair her public image. Todd Chrisley, known for his reality TV show Chrisley Knows Best, was sentenced in 2022 for tax evasion, bank fraud, and conspiracy. He and his wife defrauded banks out of millions while living lavishly. Todd was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Fans were shocked by the scale of deception behind his charming on-screen persona. He is currently serving his sentence, though he maintains that he was wrongfully convicted and has pursued appeals. Julie Chrisley, Todd Chrisley's wife and co-star, was also sentenced for her involvement in their financial crimes. She received a 7-year prison sentence for conspiracy and tax evasion. Public reaction mirrored that of her husband's case. Fans expressed disappointment over the family's betrayal of their public image. Julie is currently serving her sentence in a separate facility from Todd, and the couple has expressed hopes of being reunited after their release. Jen Shah, a reality star from The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, was sentenced in 2023 to 6.5 years in prison for wire fraud related to a nationwide telemarketing scheme targeting elderly victims. Despite initially claiming innocence, she later pled guilty. The scandal turned her opulent lifestyle into a cautionary tale. Public perception has been largely negative, with critics condemning her exploitation of vulnerable people. Shah is currently serving her sentence and has expressed remorse for her actions, though many remain skeptical of her sincerity. Danny Masterson, known for his role in That 70s Show, was convicted in 2023 of sexual assault after multiple women accused him of violent misconduct. The trial was highly publicized due to his ties to the Church of Scientology, which was accused of protecting him and intimidating the victims. He was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. Public reaction was divided, with some former co-stars supporting the victims, while others, like Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, faced backlash for defending Masterson. He remains incarcerated, with limited options for appeal. Ezra Miller, best known for their role as The Flash, faced legal trouble after a series of allegations, including assault, harassment, and burglary. Their erratic public behavior made headlines throughout 2022 and 2023, resulting in multiple arrests. Although their prison sentence was short compared to others, the public scrutiny severely damaged their career. Some fans were shocked by the rapid downfall, while others called for accountability from Warner Bros. Miller has since issued public apologies and has reportedly sought treatment for mental health issues. Felicity Huffman, beloved for her role in Desperate Housewives, was sentenced to 14 days in prison for her role in the 2019 college admission scandal. She admitted to paying $15,000 to inflate her daughter's SAT scores. Unlike Lori Loughlin, Huffman immediately pleaded guilty and expressed remorse, which led to a lighter sentence. Public reaction was mixed. Some felt her honesty deserved leniency, while others believed it highlighted celebrity privilege. She served her short sentence and has since resumed her career quietly. Suge Knight, the former Death Row Records CEO, was sentenced to 28 years in prison after a hit-and-run incident in 2015 that resulted in a man's death. Known for his controversial past involving violence and intimidation during the height of 90s hip-hop, his legal troubles were unsurprising to some but tragic nonetheless. Knight's sentence marked the end of an era for one of hip-hop's most notorious figures. He remains incarcerated, with no possibility of parole for several years. Bobby Shmurda, a rising rap star famous for his viral hit Hot N*******, was arrested in 2014 on charges of conspiracy to commit murder, weapons possession, and gang activity. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison after taking a plea deal. Fans lamented the fall of a promising artist, and his incarceration became symbolic of systemic issues in the legal system. Shmurda was released early in 2021 for good behavior and has since resumed his music career, vowing to stay out of trouble and focus on his artistry. Joe Exotic, the eccentric star of Tiger King, became infamous for his flamboyant personality and feud with animal rights activist Carole Baskin. In 2019, he was convicted of animal abuse and for hiring hitmen to kill Baskin. He was sentenced to 21 years in prison. Public reaction was a mix of fascination and outrage, with many viewers captivated by the Netflix documentary detailing his bizarre life. Despite his conviction, Joe remains defiant and has repeatedly filed appeals, claiming innocence. He continues to garner attention from prison, where he maintains a strong online following. Tekashi 6ix99, the controversial rapper known for his rainbow-colored hair and viral hits, was arrested in 2018 on racketeering, firearms charges, and gang-related crimes. To reduce his sentence, he cooperated with federal authorities, leading to the arrests of several gang members. His sentence was reduced to 2 years, and he was released early in 2020 due to the pandemic. Public reaction was intense. While some praised his decision to testify, others labeled him a snitch. Takeshi remains a polarizing figure but continues to release music and court controversy. Shine, a rising star in the early 2000s, was involved in a 1999 nightclub shooting linked to scene Diddy Combs. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison for attempted murder and assault. His career was cut short just as he was gaining fame. Despite serving his sentence, Shine was deported to Belize upon his release. Public sentiment shifted over time as he transformed his life post-incarceration, becoming a politician in Belize and earning respect for his reinvention. Amber Portwood, a reality star from Teen Mom, was arrested multiple times for domestic violence and probation violations. Her most notable arrest came in 2019 after an altercation with her then-partner, for which she was sentenced to probation and rehabilitation. Public reaction to her legal troubles was split. Some expressed sympathy for her struggles with mental health, while others criticized her for repeated incidents of violence. Amber has since focused on her recovery and advocacy for mental health awareness, though she remains under public scrutiny. Kodak Black, a popular rapper, has had numerous legal battles, including charges for weapons possession and sexual assault. In 2019, he was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison for falsifying information on federal firearms paperwork. However, he was released early in 2021 after receiving a pardon from former President Donald Trump. Public reaction to his release was mixed. Some celebrated his freedom, while others criticized the decision. Despite his second chance, Kodak has faced additional arrests post-release, keeping his name tied to controversy while continuing his music career. NXIVM leader Keith Raniere was convicted in 2019 for sex trafficking, forced labor, and racketeering. He operated a secretive organization that posed as a self-help group but was exposed for branding women and coercing them into sexual servitude. He was sentenced to 120 years in prison. Public reaction was one of horror, especially after revelations from the Vowed documentary series. Raniere maintains his innocence and continues to appeal his sentence, though he remains imprisoned. Michael Jace, best known for his role in The Shield, was convicted in 2016 for the murder of his wife, April Jace, during a domestic dispute. The crime shocked Hollywood due to its brutality and Jace's history of portraying law enforcement figures on screen. He was sentenced to 40 years to life in prison. Public reaction was overwhelmingly negative, with many calling his actions unforgivable. Jace is serving his sentence in a California prison, with no possibility of parole for decades. C-Murder, the rapper and brother of Master P, was convicted in 2009 for the murder of a 16-year-old fan during a nightclub altercation. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Despite multiple appeals and claims of innocence, his conviction remains upheld. Public opinion is divided. Some believe he was wrongfully convicted due to unreliable witness testimony, while others believe justice was served. C-Murder continues to release music from prison and advocates for his release. Phil Spector, the legendary record producer behind hits like Be My Baby, was convicted in 2009 for the murder of actress Lana Clarkson. The trial revealed Spector's history of violent behavior. He was sentenced to 19 years to life in prison. Public reaction was a mix of shock and sadness, as his musical legacy was overshadowed by his crime. Spector died in 2021 from COVID-19 complications while still incarcerated. Oscar Pistorius, the South African Olympic athlete, was convicted for the 2013 murder of his girlfriend, Reeva Steenkamp. Pistorius claimed he mistook her for an intruder, but prosecutors argued it was a deliberate act following a domestic argument. He was sentenced to 13 years in prison after a lengthy legal battle and multiple appeals. The case became a global media sensation, with many seeing it as a tragic end to an inspirational story. Pistorius remains in prison, though there have been ongoing discussions about parole and potential early release. Jared Fogle, the former Subway spokesperson, was sentenced in 2015 to 15 years in prison for child pornography and soliciting sex from minors. Once celebrated for his weight loss journey, Fogle's shocking crimes led to a massive public outcry. Subway severed ties immediately, and his fall from grace became one of the most infamous scandals in recent history. Public reaction was overwhelmingly negative, with many expressing outrage and betrayal. He remains in prison, serving his sentence with no early release expected before 2029. Ron Jeremy, the former adult film star, faced numerous charges, including rape and sexual assault involving multiple women. In 2021, he was declared incompetent to stand trial due to severe dementia and was transferred to a mental health facility. Jeremy's case became emblematic of the growing awareness of abuse in the entertainment industry. Public sentiment shifted from shock to pity, given his mental health diagnosis, but his legacy remains tarnished by the accusations. Polo G's brother, Trench Baby, became embroiled in legal disputes that shone a spotlight on the family dynamics within the rap star's household. Although less high-profile than his brother, his run-ins with the law included charges for illegal weapons possession. Public reaction has been mixed, with fans expressing concern for the brothers and hoping they avoid further legal trouble. The family continues to publicly support one another as they navigate the fallout from the incidents. Tim Norman, a former reality star from Welcome to Sweetie Pies, was sentenced to life in prison for orchestrating the murder of his nephew, Andrew Montgomery, in a scheme to collect life insurance money. The crime shocked fans of the family-centered show, as Norman had been portrayed as a caring uncle. Public reaction was one of disbelief and sadness, as the tragedy revealed a dark side behind the show's wholesome image. Norman maintains his innocence, but remains imprisoned. Young Thug, the influential Atlanta rapper, was arrested in 2022 alongside several members of his YSL crew, facing serious RICO charges related to gang activity, including conspiracy to commit murder and weapons offenses. The case sparked widespread debate about the use of rap lyrics as evidence in criminal trials. Fans have shown strong support for Young Thug, viewing him as a target of systemic injustice, while others argue the charges are justified. As of now, he remains in custody, awaiting further developments in his high-profile legal battle. Casanova 2X, a Brooklyn rapper, was sentenced to over 15 years in prison in 2023 after pleading guilty to charges of racketeering and drug trafficking as part of his alleged involvement with the untouchable Gorilla Stone Nation gang. His case drew significant attention due to his rising music career and calls for justice reform. Public reaction was mixed. Some sympathized with his upbringing and expressed disbelief, while others saw it as a harsh but necessary outcome. Casanova remains incarcerated, focusing on appeals and advocating for positive change. Wyandotte Melly, a Florida rapper, was charged with double murder in 2019 for allegedly killing his two close friends and staging the crime as a drive-by shooting. The severity of the charges shocked fans and sparked intense speculation online. He faced the possibility of the death penalty but has continued to maintain his innocence. Public opinion remains divided, with devoted fans calling for his release and others condemning the crime. Melly remains in custody as his trial and legal battle continue. Fetty Wap, the rapper known for his 2015 hit Trap Queen, was sentenced in 2023 to 6 years in prison for drug trafficking. He was arrested for participating in a large drug ring that distributed heroin, fentanyl, and other narcotics. The news came as a major blow to fans who had celebrated his success story. Many expressed sadness over his downfall, while others criticized his poor choices. Fetty Wap remains incarcerated, with efforts underway to rebuild his life after prison. BG, a founding member of Cash Money Records and a member of the Hot Boys, was sentenced in 2012 to 14 years in prison for illegal firearms possession and witness tampering. His arrest came after police found firearms in a stolen vehicle. Fans were devastated by his lengthy sentence, considering him a pioneer in Southern rap. Over time, public outcry grew, with fellow artists calling for his release. BG was released in 2023 after serving over a decade, and fans eagerly welcomed his return to the music scene. Jussie Smollett, the former Empire actor, was convicted in 2021 for staging a hate crime in 2019 and filing a false police report. Smollett claimed he was attacked by two men shouting racial and homophobic slurs, but investigations revealed he had orchestrated the incident for publicity. He was sentenced to 150 days in jail and probation, but was released after serving only a short period during the appeal process. Public reaction was overwhelmingly critical. with many feeling betrayed by his actions. Despite his release, Smollett's career has yet to recover as he continues to fight legal and reputational challenges. O.J. Simpson, the former NFL star famously acquitted of murder in the 1995 trial of the century, was later jailed in 2008 for armed robbery and kidnapping after attempting to reclaim sports memorabilia he claimed belonged to him. He was sentenced to 33 years in prison, but was released on parole in 2017 after serving 9 years. Public reaction to his imprisonment was mixed. Some believed it was karma for his earlier acquittal, while others saw it as an excessive punishment for a relatively minor crime. Simpson has since lived quietly, though he remains a controversial figure in the public eye. Peter Nygard, the Canadian fashion mogul, was charged with human trafficking, racketeering, and sexual assault in 2020 after dozens of women came forward with allegations. The accusations detailed a predatory scheme spanning decades involving underage victims. Nygard was arrested and extradited to the United States, where he awaits trial. Public response was one of outrage, with many drawing comparisons to the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. Nygard maintains his innocence, but the overwhelming evidence and survivor testimonies have severely damaged his legacy. Larry Nassar, the former USA gymnastics doctor, was sentenced in 2018 to 175 years in prison for sexually abusing hundreds of young female athletes under the guise of medical treatment. His crimes shocked the world, especially after high-profile gymnasts like Simone Biles and Aly Raisman testified against him. Public reaction was one of profound anger and support for the survivors, who exposed the systemic failures that enabled Nassar's abuse. He remains imprisoned, with no possibility of release. Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer, was convicted in 2021 for the murder of George Floyd, whose death during a brutal arrest sparked global protests against police brutality and racial injustice. Chauvin was sentenced to 22.5 years in prison for second-degree murder, later receiving an additional federal sentence for violating Floyd's civil rights. Public reaction was intense. Many saw his conviction as a pivotal moment for accountability in law enforcement, while some believed the sentence should have been longer. Chauvin remains incarcerated, with appeals pending. Mark Salin, best known for his role as Puck on Glee, was arrested in 2015 after authorities discovered thousands of images of child pornography on his devices. The scandal shocked fans and led to his immediate dismissal from the show. He pled guilty and faced up to 7 years in prison. However, before his sentencing, Salin died by suicide in 2018. Public reaction to his death was complex. While many condemned his actions, others expressed sadness over his mental health struggles and tragic end. Steve Bannon, former White House chief strategist, was indicted in 2020 for fraud related to the We Build the Wall fundraising campaign, where donors were misled about how their contributions would be used. Bannon was accused of using the funds for personal expenses. Although he received a presidential pardon for federal charges, state charges in New York were filed in 2022, keeping his legal troubles in the spotlight. Public reaction has been sharply divided along political lines, with his supporters calling it a political witch hunt and others insisting on accountability. Bannon continues to defend his innocence and remains a polarizing public figure. Josh Duggar, known for his role in 19 Kids and Counting, was convicted in 2021 on charges of child pornography possession. Authorities described the content found in his possession as among the worst they had encountered. He was sentenced to 12.5 years in federal prison. The case was particularly shocking given the Duggar family's religious public image. Public reaction was overwhelmingly critical, with many fans expressing outrage and betrayal. Duggar is currently serving his sentence, with his family facing continued scrutiny and fallout. Randy Quaid, the Independence Day and National Lampoon star, made headlines in the 2010s due to legal troubles involving fraud, burglary, and squatting. He and his wife fled to Canada, claiming they were targets of a conspiracy to harm Hollywood stars. Despite several arrests and failed asylum requests, Quaid has continued to espouse conspiracy theories and live a reclusive life. Public reaction has been a mix of concern and ridicule, with some fans questioning his mental health and others dismissing his behavior as eccentricity. he remains outside mainstream Hollywood, occasionally resurfacing in news related to his legal battles. Kevin Spacey, the Oscar-winning actor, has faced multiple allegations of sexual assault and misconduct since 2017. Although he has not been jailed, he has stood trial in the UK and US for these accusations. In some cases, he was acquitted, while others resulted in settlements or were dismissed. The allegations destroyed Spacey's career. Netflix cut ties with him, and his projects were shelved. Public reaction has been polarizing, with some defending his right to a fair trial and others supporting the accusers. Spacey has expressed hopes for a comeback, but his legacy remains tainted. Epstein associates, including Jean-Luc Brunel, the French modeling agent, became key figures in the investigations surrounding Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking ring. Brunel was arrested in 2020 and charged with rape and trafficking minors. He was suspected of aiding Epstein in recruiting underage girls for exploitation. In 2022, Brunel was found dead in his prison cell in an apparent suicide, echoing Epstein's controversial death. Public reaction was filled with speculation about conspiracies and calls for transparency. Investigations into other associates, such as Ghislaine Maxwell, have intensified, keeping the Epstein case and its far-reaching network of enablers in the global spotlight. The journey from fame to incarceration is a tragic yet captivating tale, as highlighted by the wide range of celebrities and public figures who found themselves behind bars. From fraud and conspiracy to violent crimes, their stories showcase the stark contrast between their once celebrated lives and the harsh reality of their legal repercussions. The diversity of charges, from financial schemes like those of Steve Bannon and Todd Chrisley to heinous crimes like those committed by R. Kelly and Larry Nassar, underscores that fame does not make anyone immune to justice. Society's fascination with celebrity downfalls stems from the shocking reminder that even the most admired figures are flawed. This obsession also reveals the complicated relationship between privilege, fame, and legal accountability. Some argue that celebrities receive harsher sentences to set an example, while others believe their influence affords them leniency. Cases like those of Felicity Huffman's brief sentence and Jussie Smollett's early release fuel these debates. Readers, what do you think? Are celebrities punished more harshly due to their fame, or do they benefit from preferential treatment? Share your thoughts on whether justice in high-profile cases is truly fair, or if the spotlight creates a double standard in how these individuals are held accountable for their actions.